Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to a Mono Rage deck tech. Yes, I meant to do this one for a while. Now, this particular version of Mono Rage is what I got to top, I think, what did I top out with this deck? I think rank 4? Yeah, about 3 or 4 days ago I got to rank 4 with this list before I switched over to Mono Order. And well, must have been 5 or 6 days actually. But anyway, so the deck list is fairly viable. It is high tier 2. Like, I think Elves is tier 1, and then out of the tier 2 decks, I think Mono Rage is one of the better ones. It is not quite tier 1, but it's up there. It's a deck you can definitely perform well with, and there's a lot of meticals when it comes to the numbers on certain cards. Now, for this particular list, I went pretty much all out on aggro, and I'm running a Burning Rage version, which I think every single Rage deck should involve. And as a result, the deck can take a rather strange controlling sense sometimes, where you're just playing Burning Rage, you play your removal spells, and then you kill them late game, not early game. It's kind of weird, but that's how Mono Rage has actually turned into recently. So anyway, first things first, the hero. Zash Flamebringer, also known as Basic Zash. Now, Red has an interesting case where all three of its hero powers are limited in use right now. You just don't ever get the chance to use them half the time. Now, Burke is the elf killer. Advanced Zash is too slow, and Basic Zash, sometimes you get 2 damage out of his ability, and as far as I'm concerned, that is good enough. Like, getting 2 damage out of his ability is good enough for 1 mana, I'll take it, and that's about all you can really expect to get out of Zash, but all the hero powers in Rage are not fantastic when it comes to actually using them multiple times in the game. So anyway, on to the 1-drop creatures. Running the 8 1-drops, the 4 Lizard, 4 Goblin Warrior. Now, between these two, I mean, Lizard is a 2-2 attacking, which can cause some issues. However, it's better against, it's better against some stuff, but it can't block, and it also gets eaten by Elf Warrior, which is really rough. It's good against militia, for instance. Like, you can attack and kill militia before they do anything with them. But it's not very good against assassin and also elf warrior. It doesn't die to weakness counters, but it just dies to all the other stuff. So Lizard Barbarian, in my opinion, is the worst of the 2 1-drops. But to be honest, having 8 1-drops that attack for 2 is just amazing. It's the only creature slot for Rage which is like actually packed with just high quality creatures. You got your 8 2 attack 1-drops. These will get 2 or 4 damage in some cases, and that's just incredible for 1 mana. As for the 2-drops, running 3 different 2-drops, 3 Fia. Fia is okay. It's pretty good against implants, but implants has dropped down a bit. It has limited use against elves, especially when you get your fire blasts going. So it can kill summoner druids that move onto front row. It can also snipe grove guardians and trade with sharpshooters, which is quite nice. That, and you often play Fia on back row and then attack with it next turn. Besides that, it's basically 2 hasted damage, since you can attack with Fia and then sack Fia immediately. There's other tricks you can do with it, like tying up a blocker and then sacking the Fia so you don't miss the damage. So there's, well, you don't miss as much damage. So Fia is basically a 2-2 with haste. The problem is, she's not really, because the Swift only accounts for the 1 damage. She dies to weakness counters, and you have to sacrifice her to get the extra damage. But yeah, she's a decent 2-drop. Only playing 3, not 4, because she's legendary. And even then, like, 3 Fia, sometimes you get the legend rule coming up. 4 Fia is just too much. 4 Flameborn Incarnate, one of the best creatures in the deck. This will usually be a 2-2 in most matchups, although against control it turns into a 4-4, which is hilarious. Yeah, 2 mana 4-4s are not fair things, and it actually will single-handedly destroy angels, and 1 turn heal has to pacify this thing over and over and over again, because it will hit them so hard. If they ever let it through, it will absolutely maul them. Incarnate is one of those weird cards where knowing when to pump your Incarnate is actually fairly tricky, but most of the time your opponent will have to focus these things down, because if it hits them, then instead of fireballing them, you just use the ability, and then you get your 3 damage in anyway, and then next turn you can fireball them, and they probably lost if they take 5 damage from an Incarnate. My personal record with an Incarnate is I did 20 damage with 2 Incarnates only. Like, just 2 Incarnates and the Fire Breathing ability, the +1 attack. That's what did all the damage. I just used Fire Blast and Word of Fire to clear the way, and did 20 damage with 2 Incarnates. It is very, very doable, and is a 2-drop that should never be underestimated, and your opponent will need to focus these down. Now, random tricks with this: if you're worried about Assassinate, you can actually pump your Incarnate immediately. Like, if your opponent's holding up Assassinate, then what you can do is you can play an Incarnate and pump it up to 3 attack before ending turn, and then they waste their 2 mana. They basically lose their 2 mana immediately, and then they have to spend 2 more mana to actually kill it while they can, and it can really screw their tempo. So that's an interesting trick you can do against Assassinate. On to the last of the 2-drops, Goblin Fireworker, which, that ability, by the way, the sacrifice to destroy an artifact, almost never comes up. If your opponent's helming your own stuff, you're probably winning, because all of your creatures are terrible when it comes to actual helms, with the exception of Incarnate, but I mean, if they're spending a 4 mana removal spell on a 2-drop, yeah, it's not going well. So, why is this guy in the deck? He's a 2-2. Not even joking. 2 mana 2-2, red creatures suck. You need your 2 mana 2-2. It's just a dude, you play it, you need extra 2-drops, and it lets you curve out. And as far as I'm concerned, that is good enough for a red creature. Yep, that is the quality of creatures we're dealing with here. Yeah, you need your just vanilla 2-2 with 2 speed for 2. And it's okay. It actually is better in some situations than Incarnate if they're only at 1 level, or Fia, so I don't know, it works out. Now, the last of the creatures, well, it's kind of the last of the creatures. I mean, I don't really count Flame Serpent as a creature. Gibbo and Ronnie. Gibbo and Ronnie is an interesting case where it's effectively 4-2 stats, but split over 2, which can be good and bad. It's worse against Fire Blast. It's better against things like Sharpshooter because only 1/2 dies. It's an okay guy. It will generally get a lot of damage in, not the same level as, say, Massive Attack can with Gibber and Ronnie. However, it still gets a decent amount of damage in. And Gibber and Ronnie, chances are, will get in 2 damage on its own and maybe trade with something. And as far as I'm concerned, that's fine. It's a decent creature. It lets you swarm the board in ways that few other creatures do because it has 2 bodies. And as it turns out, what happens when you take 2 Goblin Warriors, smash them together at high speed? Yeah, you get a 3 mana creature. And it's still a decent 3 mana creature. That's the funny thing. Yeah, because it's condensed to 1 card. And it is one of the worst creatures in the deck, simply because Burning Rage means that having card advantage in 1 card is actually not really a big deal anymore. So Gibber and Ronnie is not one of the better creatures, but it definitely serves its purpose, and with less Dominion around nowadays, it is definitely a lot better than it used to be. Now, on to the plethora of spells, and burn spells, and direct damage, and everything related to Burning Rage. Now, Burning Rage is a silly, silly, silly card. It is so stupidly broken, and is enough to drag Mono Red from a Tier 3 deck into a high Tier 2 deck on its own. The card is absolutely ridiculous. It ramps you, it draws you amazing amounts of cards, and it effectively gains you life against any creature deck because they can never hit you. Because you just never run out of removal spells, and you ramp into Fire Blast, and it makes your Word of Fires more powerful. You're basically, I mean, think about it this way. Burning Rage effectively cycles on its own. Like, just when you play Burning Rage, it cycles. Why? Because you would have had to go up that 2nd or 3rd level anyway, which means you would have had to discard a card, but because of Burning Rage, you don't. You play your Burning Rage, it effectively cycles itself, and then past that, you play your Word of Fires for 3 damage, and they draw 2 cards, and it turns Fire Blast into just the most unfair card advantage spell ever, and things like that. It also ramps you into your Dragon Fires, which will allow you to often end the game faster. You can do some other interesting tricks with this, like if you go Gibber and Ronnie on curve, and then the next turn you can go Burning Rage, Word of Fire for 2. That does come up. You can also go up to 4 mana and say Fireball, use Incarnate's ability or something, and then go Burning Rage, Fire Blast, because you can go up to that 5th mana easily, and it's just an incredibly powerful spell, and is highly broken against control decks especially. So, On to the rest of the spells. We've got Word of Fire, one of the 2 strictly removal spells. Word of Fire is incredibly strong. Usually it will be hitting for 3 in the late game and 2 for most of the game. Hitting for 3 does get a bit silly because it becomes 3 damage, draw a card for 2 mana, which will let you blow through pretty much anything. Its only weakness is it can't go face, which means against control decks, and especially 1-turn heal, it's a bit of a dead card. However, when it comes down to any creature matchups, it's the king of efficiency when it comes to removal spells. With Burning Rage, it gets even sillier because you already don't have to go up the extra aspect, and now you're doing 3 damage and drawing 2 cards. So Word of Fire with Burning Rage is just unfair. But yeah, the card's amazing. It's one of the strongest cards in Rage, and it's definitely one of the reasons to run mono red. Fire Blast, the other strictly removal spell, running 3 Fire Blast. Now, I meant to mention 3 Burning Rage is simply because you don't really want to. The first one's insane, but you don't really want 2 of them. Fire Blast is an interesting case because you kind of only run 3, not because you don't want multiples, but it's because you want to be drawing cards that can deal damage to the face, and Fire Blast just can't. In the case of Word of Fire, it cycles itself anyway, and it's just stronger, but you always need 1 Fire Blast. The second one's a bit debatable, but you just don't want your hand to be clogged with Fire Blast, so I'm running the third copy, not the full 4. But it will usually wipe the board. It's incredibly strong as elves, and also against any soldier archetypes. Against Dominion, it will let you clear the Raven and all of his gnomes in the back as well. So Fire Blast is just an amazing, amazing removal spell, and is one of the other reasons to be running red right now, along with Burning Rage and Word of Fire. Now, as for the direct burn, we're running 3 direct burn spells. First one is Fireball, the smallest of all of them. Fireball is often a removal spell, but can be used at instant speed to kind of bluff burn, where what you can do is, if you don't know whether or not your opponent can kill you, say if he has a Haldir Rider, this comes up a lot. He plays Haldir Rider, you Fireball it, but if he doesn't have it, you Fireball him, untap Dragonfire, and then you win. And it allows you to do some very interesting things where you can Fireball your opponent end of turn because they think they're safe, but they're actually not. So they Fireball end of turn, maybe they played their turn incorrectly because of it, and you can really mind games people out with this stuff. It's also really nice against the other red decks because you can use it on a Flame Serpent. Dragonfire, the big burn spell, hits for a quarter of your opponent's life total. This thing is, first of all, if you're using Dragonfire as a removal spell, it feels awful. Because, yeah, this is player removal more than creature removal. It can be used as creature removal, but this is really player removal when it comes down to it. 5 damage is a lot, and because of the 4 Dragonfire, 3 Flame Serpent, the 7 burn spells that hit for 5, that's actually a count which I like using, is that 7 burn spells to hit for 5. You can run 6, but with Burning Rage now, the 3 aspects is not as much of a drawback, and Dragonfires will often chain into themselves against combo and control decks, meaning 1-turn heal will not like you, because you just keep Dragonfiring them, and you just don't seem to run out of damage. So, yeah, it's not uncommon to actually kill someone with 35 damage in one game. When you've got Burning Rage out and you keep drawing through all of your burn spells. But yeah, 5 damage is amazing. Usually you only need to deal 10 damage with creatures, and then you got 2 burn spells to close out the game, and Dragonfire is 1/2 of that. Now, the last card in the deck is Flame Serpent, the honorary burn spell. It's not a burn spell, it's a creature. Now, this has one upside and a lot of drawbacks compared to Dragonfire. Okay, it's got 2 upsides. It's cheaper, so you can play it on curve, which is nice. And it can also be used to kill a creature and deal 2 to 3 damage to your opponent's face, which is also a upside. However, once you get past that, you realize why there's only 3 in the deck and 4 Dragonfires. It doesn't draw off Burning Rage, and it also gets completely screwed over by Flash Freeze, Fireball, Pacify, Disarm, like any number of control spells. Not so much by guards, but if you're in order, they've got Pacify anyway, and that is absolutely disgusting. Pacifying a Flame Serpent is such a tempo loss for the Rage player, because it's usually taking up their entire turn, and then you just pacify it, and then they're usually dead. So Flame Serpent has a lot of drawbacks compared to Dragonfire, but that's the reason why we're running 3 Flame Serpent and the 4th Dragonflyer. Now, besides that, 18 basic shrines. If you're running no skill shrines, you can get away with 18. That and Burning Rage means you will never miss a shrine drop past turn 5, so you just don't need the extra shrines there. Card advantage is not a problem for Rage right now. Now, as far as emissions when it comes to cards, it's mostly just Phoenix that's missing. I mean, and Massive Assault. Is it Assault or Attack? There seems to be a running theme with me. I can never remember what that thing's called. It's Assault. But anyway, so it's mostly just Phoenix and Massive Assault that are the two missing cards from some other versions. And I guess Disciple is Ash, but I'm not a fan of Disciple is Ash in these kinds of decks. Looter is not necessary anymore because of Burning Rage, just saying. Zash is a bit slow. Phoenix is just not where you want to be. It is a good stabilizing creature on the board, but the problem is it gets bounced for 1 mana by elves, which is brutal. And against a minion, it's bad, and yeah, it's just not very well positioned right now in the metagame. And there's just better things you can be doing with your mana. And the last card is Massive Assault. Now, I was running Massive Assault on this list as a 2-0 for a while. The problem I have with Massive Assault is that it's a tempo loss when you play it, which means that it's not like the effect does nothing if you don't have creatures on the board, because it works with Flame Serpent and Fia. However, it's a tempo loss when you play it, which is kind of brutal, because you don't want to be taking tempo losses. You want to be just burning your opponent and killing all the creatures over and over and over again. And taking a tempo loss of Massive Assault is not where you want to be, so that's why I cut it. 2 mana. 2 mana for something that doesn't have that much impact on the board is just not fantastic. So anyway, let's go into a game here. I'll go into Friendly Queue because I would rather not play a non-mono order deck in ranked right now. But yeah, I've been maintaining with that list, and then I'll probably switch it up a bit when we get the season reset, which is in 4 days. Yeah, coming to the end of the month here. Besides that, we're probably expecting a balance patch at some point. I would just bet it's probably Niana, maybe Burning Rage. I don't know. I think Burning Rage may be okay for now. But anyway, not the card itself, but the fact that the deck it's in isn't as dominant. So this is a weird hand. I don't really like it because I've got 1-drop, 3-drop. If I was going second, this is keepable, but I think I need something better. Is this better or worse? This is no 1-drop. But I do have the Incarnate, Burning Rage. Let's go up mana here. There's Word of Fire. Alright, so I think I can make use of this because I can go up Burning Rage into Word of Fire depending on what he does. Or I can just go for the Flameborn Incarnate. Like, if he goes up mana here, I'm obviously not going to play the Flameborn because it'll die immediately. That's a bit of an annoying interaction. Vulture. Alright, that's just dying. I can't really afford that to grow. Draw the second Word of Fire. So yeah, I'm just going to kill that. There's no reason for me to leave that on board. Get the cycle. He mostly just milled 1-drops. Milled the Dragonfire, but I've got enough burn in the deck besides that. The 1-drops, that's actually good for me because it means I don't have to draw them. But milling is just random anyway, so yeah. Besides that, the main note from this is 3 creatures in the yard. As he... Interesting. Didn't have anything. Now, I could go Burning Rage here. But I think what I'm going to do is just set out the Incarnate. The reason for it is because this dies to Fumes and Vermin, but that's still a card down. Now when he dies to Fumes, but next turn I can go Burning Rage, Word of Fire into multiple Flame Serpents. I'm not really in a hurry. And I mean, I can also, if he just plays like a blocker that I can't kill Word of Fire, what I can do is go up 4 mana, use the Hero Power, and then hit him for 5. Oh, that's interesting. Alright, let's draw here. Alright, I'm just going to go for the Fia. This is a Pacify, so I'm just going to go for the Fia, get some damage in. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's the same thing as Pacify in this case, but it does show me he's playing guards, which is a bit odd. Now, he could go up and use the Hero Power here. So I think I'm just going to sacrifice to get a damage in while I can. I don't really see a downside to it. We do not want the second Burning Rage. Like, Burning Rage doesn't really have a drawback unless you have 2 of them in play. Because 2 damage a turn is a lot more than 1. It is... I mean, you're basically converting a 20-turn clock into a 10-turn clock. But in this case, like, losing 2 health per turn is not even worth it. Flash of Delirium. So I'm mostly just looking at the creatures he's milling. So yeah, this is full mill, so I just want to be going... going full face. This is going to be good for me because I actually have 13 damage or burn in hand. Playing out the Golden Warrior just to kind of force him to deal with it in some regard. But I've got 13 damage of burn in hand, and I've got enough card draw that something like Mesmerizing Spirit doesn't actually worry me. I think what we're going to end up doing here is going for some sort of Flame Serpent. He's left up Pacify. This is interesting. I think what I like here is actually just the Dragonfire. I mean, the problem I have currently is actually the way the mana numbers work out. That still doesn't work out correctly. So I'm just going to Word of Fire this. I get my draw. The mana numbers still don't work out. That's infuriating. Yeah, so he gets his guards. And I can't kill him through this. I think I'm just going to Fireball him end of turn and go from there. Like, I'm winning the long game regardless because this entire hand is just burn. This is where it gets kind of weird. Like, I'm playing a hyper-aggressive deck, but these hands get really control-y sometimes. Because, like, depending on what he does... Oh, that's annoying. That's going to get a Dragonfire. Surely. Be kind of funny if there weren't any more Dragonfires in the deck, so he actually couldn't name it. He could assume I'm playing 3 Dragonfire. He goes to the Fireball. And that's going for the... That's annoying. I mean, I've got Flame Serpents that will actually get rid of these Spell Wardens. Okay, so he's trying to lock out my burn. Which means... Let's see... How do I get the damage in required here, I think? I do want to go for a Flame Serpent here, but if I don't go for the Dragonfire, I've got a strange feeling I'm just going to lose this game. Because if he has a third Spell Warden and he names the Dragonfire, I'm not sure I can actually win. I mean, I probably still can, but it's a bit of a gamble. Wait, what? Oh, that was a mistake. Okay, that I've never actually seen that before. What happened was Fia wasn't on the board when I damaged him for the first time, so yeah, that was a misplay. It's kind of weird how that interaction works, because it makes sense, but I've never actually seen that before because it's just such a random interaction. Now, if I draw Word of Fire, then I can actually just Word of Fire this and Fireball him from there, and then he's pretty much out of luck. The problem he has currently is that these Spell Wardens are vulnerable. Reanimate. Does he have a third Spell Warden? He can name Dragonfire. He could name Word of Fire. Yeah, he does have a third Spell Warden. What else does he have? He's actually got 4 Vultures in the yard. That's hilarious. But nah, he gets that Spell Warden. Names Dragonfire. That's actually kind of okay because the yeah, he's actually vulnerable to Flame Serpents here. So now what I get to do is let's see. So what can I actually do here? Missing that energy has missed me lethal, hasn't it? No, not quite. Okay, so Fireball is not relevant here, so what I'm going to do is just make that unable to block, kill that, and now we'll get extra damage in here, actually. So this gets in 4 damage. Which puts him at 3. Leaving him dead to a Fireball. Now, he could have Reanimate to get a Spell Warden. He only has 1 left in the deck if he's playing 4. and he only has 2 reanimates, and I've got another Flame Serpent to get past this. That, and as soon as I draw Word of Fire, like, he has to name... That's fine. He has to name Fireball at this point, because he knows... Actually, can he name Fireball? No, he can't, so I've just won the game. He can't even name Fireball, there wasn't another one in the deck. So yeah, that's kind of a weird example of how games can work with Rage nowadays, because they're not really aggro games. They're like strange Burning Rage control burn games, where you're just kind of trying to monitor your opponent's board and then throwing burn spells at them directly. Like, you don't get much, if any, damage. In fact, did I get a single creature attack in that game, just from like standard aggro? Like, I think I got 2 attacks in with a Fia. Besides that, was just burn spells. And maybe an Incarnate. No, the Incarnate didn't even hit him. That was just burn spells and Fia. So it was mostly just swift damage and controlling the board while I could. But that's actually where a lot of the strength from Mono Rage comes from right now, is that they have so much reach that they actually don't need a good creature base. And that game was kind of an example of how Rage differs from other control decks. In that regard, and also just other aggro decks. It plays really weirdly. The strange games to watch is when you're playing against elves in particular. Playing against elves is really odd, because depending on how the openers work for both players, the Rage player will either act as an aggro deck or a control deck. And that's not an overstatement. I mean, they'll either play 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, and just go face, face, face. Or they'll go Burning Rage, Word of Fire, Fire Blast, like Fireball your Haldiri Rider, and then like Dragon Fire them 3 times and win. That's like how it often plays. So you end up with these Rage decks winning on turn 9 or 10, even slowing the game down depending on your opponent. And that's how it really kind of gets a bit strange, and Burning Rage is what actually allows you to do that kind of play style, and why playing Mono Rage right now is really odd, because it doesn't play like a traditional aggro deck anymore. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. But as now, it's been Jotto, signing off.